It is great to see you for day 2 of Focus, Balance, Growth, the live sessions happening until September 1st. If you are here on Instagram, it is wonderful to see you. Just as a reminder, you need to jump over to the space on our YouTube. That is where you guys can find me. That is where I am going to be hanging out with you. So let's jump in and see, where is everybody today. Go ahead and just check it out. Just going to make sure everyone can see me. I want to make sure that you guys can see me. Awesome. Okay. I'm going to drop. Here we go. Awesome. Okay. So let's have a little chat. First of all, how is everybody going? Go ahead and type into the chat. How are you feeling out of 10? How motivated are you? We've got someone here from Oklahoma, which is awesome. Hey, good to see you today. I have a feeling that some of the links may be going to different places. So if you are wondering where I am, you can find me on YouTube. And if you are going to the wrong link, I really apologize, and I will make sure that we get that correct link up as soon as possible. So, hey everybody, let's talk about emails. Tell me what you hate about emails. I want to know, because this is 3 motivation. Yeah, well, let's see if we can get a little bit higher by the end of today's conversation. So, let's talk about emails. I want to know from you, what are the biggest struggles that you currently have when it comes to your emails, and what are you trying to fix? Because I want to help you today. In this session, we're going to take you from super unmotivated, don't know what's happening with emails, to motivated, understand how you're going to fix it, how you're going to solve it. That's what we're going to be focused on. So, give me your biggest struggles. Is it that there's too many of them? Is it that you start responding to messages and then suddenly you're in the wrong spot? You're doing the wrong thing? Go ahead and give me those details now. I can see a couple of people, motivation is down, having a script deadline. Right. Okay. Got it. What I want to help you with today is how to get your time back. That's pretty much the biggest thing that emails can help you with. So I'm going to go and, yeah, overwhelmed by all the nonsense emails, 100%. So I'm going to go ahead and I am going to show you exactly how to do that today. So let's jump in here. I'm going to share my screen, and share my screen with you guys. And we're going to grab that picture, because you know I drew a picture. Of course I drew a picture. It wouldn't be me if I didn't draw one. So let's grab that here. Awesome. Okay, so this is you. Someone said I read them at odd times and then I forget that they're there and people get mad. Yep, 100%. So let's talk a little bit about this. Okay, so you have a ton of things. If you imagine a funnel, a ton of things funneling into your life right now. There are all of your emails coming in daily. You could think of socials as kind of your emails as well. Like, everybody is trying to message you. Everything is coming at you. And maybe you are forgetting things, you're avoiding things, you're checking all the time. That's a dopamine problem. We could talk about that as well. Or you're going to just find yourself getting really lost in your emails. Like you said, you check them at odd times and then you forget. And you're like, hey, so I responded to you in my head, basically. So you're in this position where you have your emails, they're all coming into you, and then you have all these different stakeholders. So you have, your folder organization might say project 1, project 2, home question mark thing I need to do. Are we still doing that? You've got all these weird folders. You've got this little space which I would call afraid to archive, to read. Who's got a to read space? And you're saying, oh yeah, I need to read that totally. And then you don't. That is also a struggle that we have all the time with our emails. And don't forget, if you want to jump onto the YouTube channel, you can see me here talking through it, and what this looks like specifically. So we have this afraid to archive space as well. So someone said, why does everyone need your email address? I'm buying toothpaste. I don't need to give my email address to you. Yeah, a lot of people do that now, right? So you also have all of these spam emails and they're coming in and you're like, oh, should I keep it? They had a special that one time. Like, what are we going to do? And so these are all different struggles that we can have with emails. So, what do we do? How do we break them down? So, I'm going to give you guys just a couple of tips today that we're going to actually build on tomorrow. Tomorrow, we're going to talk about how to prioritize when everything's on fire. Today is going to be kind of step one of that. Because, as I said, we're going for the whole week. We're talking about this every day this week. So, want to go in and let's talk a little bit about what are the different steps that you can use. So, first things first, what is truly urgent for you when it comes to your emails? I want to know. We need to figure out the first folder we need to have is just the one that says urgent. And this is where you want to do inbox zero. I'm going to be honest with you. I'm going to go out on a bit of a limb here and I'm going to say I don't really believe in inbox zero. I don't really believe in making sure that you currently hit your inbox. I don't really believe in task zero. I don't believe in ticking all your tasks off. That's a great way to spend a lot of time, when you need to. So, what does it mean then to have urgent? This is where you want inbox zero. Urgent means, and you'll hear me talk about this tomorrow a little bit more as well. What it means is I have to do this by the end of today, or there will be a significant external negative consequence. For those of you who are listening, I can see you chatting here. What is that significant external negative consequence that you think would require an email response? Go ahead and type into the chat what you think it is. Generally speaking, it's a bill that needs to be paid. It's a response that needs to happen tomorrow because there is an event happening tomorrow. That would be an example of a significant external negative consequence. And if you've heard me talk about this on podcasts, you'll hear me talk about the waiting list metaphor, which really helps with this idea. If you were in a waiting list, not waiting list, the waiting room. If you were in a waiting room, what would you need to do in order to get to a place where you were like, okay, I'm in a waiting room. My day's gone sideways. I'm going to have to be here all day. What is the stuff I'm still going to have to do? What are the emails I'm still going to have to respond to on my phone, or at least apologize and say, hey, I'm not going to be there tomorrow? That's what goes in the urgent space. That's what you want to go ahead and put in the urgent space. Everything else, not so much. So that's what we want to think about here. Then we want to go in and we want to say, okay, that's what's urgent. So hopefully you guys have got that. That's our inbox zero. The next space we want to do is what is important. And if you heard my chat yesterday, we talked about setting sales, setting course. How do we do that? What does that look like? And we talked about this idea of, okay, what is the 20% that's going to give me that 80% return? What is the 20% thing that I need to do? If I really locked in on it, it would give me a real substantial shift towards my goals, you know? So this is something that we need to talk about. And I see your question about time zones, and I'll answer that in a minute as well. So that for you is going, okay, what is that thing that I really need to go ahead and I really need to do? That 80%. That is what goes in important. So you have the folder called important. Nothing else. And this is really important. A lot of people say, okay, I need to go through all my emails. But the truth is, you're never going to get through all your emails. And if you do get through all your emails, it's probably going to be a short term thing. It's not going to last forever. So what we want to do is we want to say, okay, there's just a river of stuff coming towards me. I need to sort it. I need to go. This is urgent. This is important. Everything else is fine. Everything else is going to go in archive, guys. Not everything. I'll tell you what's not going to go in archive in a second. Then the next thing we want to do is we want to have a responded section, a section where we say, this is where I have responded to a message. Why? Because we have working memory struggles with ADHD. So we'll forget what we've responded to. And so this can be really, really difficult. So we want to go ahead and we want to put in a responded section specifically. So that we can go back through and we can say, okay, this is what I've done, and this is what I said, and this is when I said it. If you're working with an assistant, which we'll talk about in a second, this is really helpful as well. Then we want to have a section called waiting on. And this is really, really crucial. And again, if you want a picture of this, you can jump over to the YouTube channel and you can see there what I'm talking about. And so if we're talking about this idea of waiting on, this is where we put the messages that we need a response to. Why? Because if we're running a business, Those follow-ups are really, really, really crucial. And you and I both know we're not the best at it. Can I get some love in the chat? I can see people talking about it. Who is not the best at responding and following up to a response? You're like, I responded. Oh, now you want me to check in on your response and what would I even say? And oh, it's going to be so awkward. So we want to have this waiting on space where we can say, this is the stuff that I'm waiting on a response from. And this is the stuff that I'm going to bump. Because guess what? Not everybody else is great at email either, and they might need a bump, and that's totally fine. I'm sure you've had a bump before and you've been like, oh, thank goodness. I totally forgot about that. Thank you for bringing it back to the top of my inbox. As long as you do it in a nice way and you provide value. And we talk about this a lot in my program. Okay, so then what is the last space? The last space is pretty fun. It's just newsletters, just research documents, a space where you can put all those things that you want to read. You don't have to respond to it, but you like it. It's like a fun Substack. That's kind of what you want to go ahead and do. Newsletters, and you check in and you do that once a week, basically. So just to give you a reminder of what everything is, you have all of your stuff, and then you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 folders. That's it, 5 folders. Time-based, not category-based, because category-based is really difficult for ADHD brains. We struggle with categories. They're not really tied to time or working memory struggles, and so we can get really lost and can get really big. So we want to have urgent, what needs to be done today? What are we actually going to inbox zero? What is important? What is tied to your 80/20 task? We want to have responded. What have you actually responded to? Waiting on, what do you need to follow up on? And then newsletters. So things you want to respond to and look at as you go. Yes, and you sort them. So you'll go through and you might say, okay, I'm going to sort them at this particular time of the day, and I'm going to respond to them at this particular time of the day. And I will get to that end of day question as well. And if you have any questions, please type them into the chat and I will respond as we go through. And then from there, you might say to yourself, okay, cool, but like, where are all of the other emails going? Where are all the emails that aren't important and aren't urgent? Where are they going? They're going into this little space called archive. And this is something that I find really interesting. And I talk about this a lot. I actually have a client who, I've talked about recently, who runs, over a $10 million business, co-founder or owner of the business. And this is a struggle, right? For him, for other people, this is something that we've talked about a lot. You can put things in archive. It's okay. You can always find it again. It's a folder. So you can totally set up and say, okay, well, once a week, I'm going to review archive. The stuff you've responded to is going to be in the, responded section. Archive is just going to be a space where you can say, okay, well, these are all the things that weren't really important. They didn't require urgent attention. Are they now urgent? Check them about once a week. And if, you want to figure out how to do this with your task list, that's what we're going to be talking about tomorrow. So wait to check that out tomorrow. Okay. So that's the process. What I want to know from you now is type into the chat, what are all the problems that you think are going to come up with this process? Because it's all about that implementation. We are not just about giving you strategies, we're about implementing and learning those strategies. And I'm going to jump in. I'm going to answer that first question that I saw. So someone said, I work with people across different time zones. So getting responses in on time to editors, casting folks is something I struggle with because my end of day is 8 hours before my editors. Totally understand this. I live in wonderful New Zealand. I mostly work with people in the US. In fact, I've been told I'm getting an American accent. And so I am often in a position of working in other time zones. My recommendation is set up the day that works for you. So if you say, okay, my day starts here and it ends here, and somebody else's day starts at a different time, you're going to have to send some emails. So go ahead and set up a time for you. So resist the urge to say, oh, well, because my end of day is 8 hours before, then technically I could work into the middle of the night. Try and create yourself a day. It doesn't have to be normal. Nothing we do has to be normal. This is called unconventional organization for business owners. So 100% it doesn't have to be normal, but we want to go ahead and we want to think about, okay, could we have an early morning or a late night or whatever time of day works for you? I personally start work at 5 a.m. That's what I like to do. And then create that day, basically. That's what we want to do. Somebody else said, does Do you sort them before you do the things? So yeah, like I said, we want to sort them before we do the things. That's what we want to work on. Awesome. So just to give you a wrap up here, I want to leave you with a few ideas, and then we're just going to have a quick chat about what happens if you decide you want to have an assistant working with your emails, because this is another question I get a lot. This is one of the best things to delegate when you have ADHD: your email, your calendar. Getting an assistant is really, really crucial when you're trying to grow your business. It's that baseline ADHD support. But a lot of times people are saying, okay, well, how am I going to do that? I've got so much stuff. And there's privacy issues as well. So in terms of how you organize it, think about it less like categories and more time based. Is it important because it needs to be done, or is it urgent because it needs to be done in the last 24 hours? And like I said, if the important urgent thing is giving you a little bit of confusion, and we will be talking about this tomorrow in more depth. Then, when it comes to getting an assistant, one of the things that I personally do that I highly recommend is using a system like Missive. You don't have to give people access to your actual email. You can 100% use a system like Missive, where you give people access to a space that has access to your email. They can respond to your email. They can write notes below, which is really, really helpful, because you can have conversations about particular emails and ways that they could be responded to, ways they could be drafted, that kind of thing. But you're not actually going ahead and doing it yourself. And so in that case, you want to basically use that system. It's very simple. And look, sometimes we hire somebody and it doesn't turn out that they're the right fit. It really, really is frustrating having to change your password all the time, particularly if you struggle with working memory and now you just have another admin task on top of everything else that you were doing. So in that case, you want to be able to just turn off the access. You can turn off the access to the email, turn off the access to the whole lot of emails, depending on what you want to do. And in terms of how to set it up, my recommendation is the person that you hire sets it up. And that is what I have done. I want to ask in an interview how to avoid getting into a tangent. That's an interesting question. Definitely go ahead and DM me. If you have any questions, by the way, that aren't about this topic, you can just DM me on Instagram or email me. I know a lot of you guys are in the emails. But yeah, that's what we're going to talk about today. I hope you've gotten a little bit of value. I hope you're feeling a little bit more motivated. Go in the chat and just tell me, where are you now out of 10? What is your motivation levels out of 10? Hopefully, we've helped you get a little bit clearer, a little bit more motivated. Like I said, my name is Sky, and I am a former academic turned entrepreneur who helps business owners and ADHD bosses focus, balance, and grow. I'm running a program that starts September 1st, which is why I'm running these sessions. So if you want to know more about them, you can just message me Grow on Instagram or send it to my email, Sky@Unconventional Organization, and I will share all of these details with you. But thank you so much for coming along. Sorry, we had a little bit of an issue with the YouTube. I will be sending out a message in the actual link below and make sure that that doesn't happen next time, because I'm going to see you tomorrow. So if you want to keep going, you want to keep growing, you want to keep getting focused, I will see you tomorrow. We will do just that. Okay, guys. Wonderful to have you. See you later. Bye.